loved me.
I continued my jump squats as the fairy watched intently, clapping occasionally until I reached my usual 100.
Wow, so strong and handsome.
She flitted about me, landing tiny kisses on my forehead. I gently waved her away. Madam Fairy, your congratulations are much appreciated as always, but your acts of intimacy might be too forward. I smirked, pretending to hide my biceps as I hugged myself. I continued to flex, watching for her reaction. She giggled and flew away.
Of course, Jon. I apologize for my forwardness.
That is, Lord Jon, to you, madam. She bowed mockingly low.
Yes, of course, Lord Jon.
I harumphed before starting my daily routine. One had to look charming to be taken seriously. My blouse was of a vibrant green and red, well ruffled, matching my pants. Clothes becoming of the Queen's right hand. Well, former right hand.
So, Mr. Jon, draped in the finest costume Halloween stores offer, what are your plans today?
I shot her an indignant look before answering with a frown. She's been here a year now, watching everything. She should know my routine. Exercise, followed by ingratiating the guards, all the while noting this prison's weaknesses. You know my plans, I narrowed my eyes at her. And what will you do? Watch me from doorways, then disappear after I take the guard's remedies? She flew over, landing on my shoulder.
You know me so well. Actually, today I thought maybe we could go on a quest.
She pulled out an envelope, seemingly from midair.
Read.
I sat on the bed inspecting it. It did look official. I began reading with great fervor. I was to find my stolen items they had locked away when I arrived. Specifically, a small portrait that the Queen said would clear my name. I could not recall any of the possessions I had when captured. The memories of my first few weeks in this place were hazy. I finished, scoffing at the final line. She wants you to be my guide? Ridiculous!
Is that what it says? Who could have predicted that?
She tapped her chin before shrugging and smiling wide.
Well, let's go!
She flew backwards in a small loop. I could not fail the Queen, not again. I sprung to my feet. We have only moments before the guard comes with her remedy. This would be difficult. The fairy informed me my things were behind a locked door on the other side of the prison. I would need a distraction, keys, and wit. Into the many pockets of my clothes, I tucked a tube of baby oil, a door wedge, and my hairbrush. All would be useful. My hair's neatness was very important. The fairy doubted me. A knock came at the door, and one of the female guards entered holding the capsule. The fairy looked at me nervously. Usually I would just take it, and she would disappear until the evening. But the Queen wanted her to come with me. I smiled at the guard taking the remedy and water. She smiled back. The guards were always nice here, and my charm worked wonders. I made quite the show of swallowing the pill. She seemed satisfied. As the door shut behind her, I immediately spat the thing out into a sock. Now we make our break, fairy.
A quest with Lord Jon. How exciting!
I nodded. While her infatuation with me was pleasant, I knew my time was limited. The stern guards, as I called them with their badges and keys, would be walking past soon. Distraction time. At a table, Elder Brown worked on the same puzzle he completed every day before midday. He was pleasant mostly, but there's a simple way to provoke him to fits. I leaned over him, saying good day, as I always do. With his happy eyes on me, I pocketed 1 of 100 pieces. It took less than 10 minutes. A chair flew across the room, crashing into the wall before clattering loudly onto the floor. Elder Brown was stronger than most assumed. He yelled, raging about his unfinished puzzle. The guards were there in moments. They tried to calm him, but he paid them no mind, yelling accusations at another prisoner. I walked behind the guards, offering my help, but they shooed me away before turning to Brown again. I gently placed a puzzle piece on one shoulder. I called out, Elder Brown, please, there is no need for this. Let us simply apprehend the thief without you accosting your fellow man. He looked at me. I pointed at the guard's shoulder. He charged the guard, taking them both to the ground. I made a lunge, acting as if to pry them apart. In the struggle, I unhooked the key ring. It was in my pocket before I was shoved back. While the commotion continued, I walked to the exit leading to the rest of the prison. With a smile, I inserted the long brass key marked J51 into the door. I pushed it open and slipped through. On the other side, I kicked the door wedge into place, but the noise drew attention. A guard untangled from the scuffle and ran to the door, trying to open it. The jam held for now, but the clock had started. I sprinted down the hallway. "No! Other way! Just follow me, JJ!" The fairy shot like an arrow down the hall. I pivoted to follow her, slipping on the marbles slightly. I kept close, taking turns in a maze I didn't remember. I was glad she did. During the mad dash, I stopped at a T intersection and squirted baby oil onto the floor before sprinting to catch up. "Okay, last one." The hallway narrowed, and we were greeted by a buff-looking guard. He was quite surprised. The fairy and I both stopped. "What's your plan, Lord Jon?" The fairy's eyes bounced between us. I straightened my blouse, pulled the brush from my pocket, and returned my frizzy hair to its well-coiffed state. "I told you this would be useful." The fairy groaned. "Uh-oh, this can only end poorly." I swaggered over to the guard. He was stunned by my composure. "Sorry to shock you, but I had to rush over here and ask why a handsome man like yourself has such a job full of drudgery." The fairy's laughter was very loud, but I ignored her. The guard blinked a few times. I tossed my hair with a head flip. "Well?" "Wow. You are confident, and definitely not supposed to be here." "Well, when you have something to be confident about." I flexed a bicep at him. His eyes widened, and his mouth fell open, just a little. He was clearly impressed. "Look, the Renaissance costume is great, but..." Behind us came the echoes of what can be described as multiple bodies slipping and falling over each other before thudding hard on the marble floor. "Stay here. There's no exit down this way, so don't go looking for one." Then he was off in a flash. "See, fairy?" She stared at me, still shaking with laughter. "Sure, JJ. My name is Lord Jon." She ignored me and flew over to the door tucked into an alcove. I pulled out the ring of keys from my pocket. She landed on my shoulder, whispering into my ear. "The small silver key goes to the door. I remember seeing it when they admitted you." It came unlocked as I glowered at her. "You mean, imprisoned me?" The room was full of lockers. Most were labeled. Her demeanor changed. She was less jovial after hearing my words. She flew to one of them. "Here, Jonathan Jennings." She tapped the metal. I spoke as I pulled the locker open. "You're sure that's my name?" "Mm-hmm." Her voice was now further away as she hovered behind me. A pair of fabric wings made to look fairy-like, and a floppy green hat that were held in by the door fell onto the floor. "I decided to be a fairy that year, and you went with your charming rogue outfit, as you put it." The fairy's voice was even quieter now. I was confused. "How will this clear my name?" "Have you been working against me? They will punish me for..." "JJ, take your wallet out." Her words throttled my tirade. I couldn't stop myself if I wanted to. My hands took the leather wallet, shaking. "Look at the picture in the left slot." A gorgeous woman stood next to me in the portrait. I was dressed oddly. The clothes were dull. No bright colors, no frills. Looking at my blouse, it felt wrong now. Out of place. Silly. I was enamored with the woman. If such a beautiful lady hung onto my arm when I dressed like that, then maybe I should change my look. The fairy landed on the wallet. "You're so cute now, but maybe you shouldn't be this fancy all the time." Before I could respond, she tapped the woman. "Who's this right here?" She flew off again. "It's someone that I know very well." I was entranced. I couldn't look away from her. She's so beautiful. Like some fey enchantress. I gasped and looked about. "Fairy, where—" She stood next to me, no longer tiny and flying. She was a regular-sized human. Her hair flowed over her shoulders. Her bangs framed her face. She had just gotten them cut. She loved the way they looked. Just a human. but everything to me. Laura the Lovely. The words leapt from me like some ancient memory.
What else? You're my wife.
Laura smiled and stepped closer to me. Her hand took mine. Our eyes locked, and it felt as if the world brightened. Warmth flooded into me.
What else, John the Jolly? This one might be harder.
You... I felt tears streak down my cheeks. I hadn't cried since the day I lost her, and now a year's worth of sorrow poured out of me.
You can say it, my charming rogue.
Laura still smiled, but I saw in her eyes the pain reflected from mine. I choked on my tears. I brushed them away and took a deep breath before starting again. You were hit by a car when you ran ahead of me after the festival. They said you couldn't see you, but I smelled the alcohol in their breath while they gave me empty apologies. Your outfit was stained red, and I shuddered as more tears came. With the crowds, the ambulance was too slow. I couldn't. My breathing became painful and ragged.
Quest complete, my rogue.
Then she kissed me. I felt the warmth bloom all over again, but when I opened my eyes, she was fading. But I can't, no, not without you! I stammered and clutched at her hand. Mine passed through it, but the warmth came again.
Yes, you can.
You are so good and pure. You can't deprive the world of your heart. I clutched my chest. A year locked away. A madman who couldn't care for himself. I watched as she faded. My magical fairy. I love you. My voice was a whisper. I couldn't hear her, but she mouthed my words back to me. And then I was alone with my thoughts. For maybe a minute. Security guards broke in to find me slumped on the floor, crying in my bright suit. I was able to speak with a psychiatrist within the hour. After some observation, they cleared me in just a few days. I was sent home as long as I no longer saw Fairy and regularly went to see my therapist. The hallucinations never did return, unfortunately. But I swear, when life becomes difficult, I feel her warmth driving out my despair. Like magic.